All right, another exciting, thrilling, and informative segment of The Adventurer. And what we did on the last one was we basically worked over the master cylinder. We partially assembled the headlight. We put the carburetors on. We did the wiring and the battery box, the starter solenoid. So we're getting closer. So let's get right back to getting the caliper and the brake lines on the front hooked up. So the first thing I got to do is I've got to get the fender cleaned up, which I did. Now I'm going to just polish it. But it needs to go on first because there's a bracket that falls back here that holds the brake lines. So let's get that. All right, I cleaned up these exhaust pipes outside. Got all the surface rust off, and now I'm going to polish them. And I'm going to work inside these fins a little bit, get a little bit more out of there. But all in all, they're shiny, and this is the underside. And the top. Definitely shiny and pretty much rust free. This got a little bit of a road rash on it, and then the other one has some areas where it's pitted through, where it's actually flaked up and pitted through. And the baffles are in it. I removed a screw and tried to get one of the baffles out, and they're not coming out, and I'm not going to mess with it because they're in. So let's shine this up and let's get it installed. So what I use is this tip. It's it's wire, and it'll get right in there. Now I've already done this, and as you can see, it's really nice and bright. And I can get a lot of this. And really basically the chrome is gone from there. So there's not much I'm going to be able to get. But like along in these lines, it really gets in there. So they also make a little wire wheel, and it's really good too. So you can use, very varied amount of tools, different things. You just want to get all the rust off and get all the corrosion off, and then polish it out. And just wipe it down. Boy, it sure does shine up nice, doesn't it? Get that all polished, and then we'll install it. All right, I got the exhaust pipe weaved through the brake pedal and the foot peg, but here's where I need to assemble the rear pegs, the passenger pegs. So let's get those together. And it sure is nice to work with nice new plated pieces. So let's get those together and try and get this exhaust side on. I have the outside, washing area or washing cart. But what I did is I built this, I call it the Harley bathroom because it's in Harley orange, and it's got a Harley Davidson sink and a Harley Davidson mirror with all kinds of Harley stuff. It's a small bathroom, but it is perfect when it's so hot or cold outside to be able to just come in here. And I put this sink in, and I've got the Purple Power in a little tub there, and it's perfect because we've got to clean the rear foot pegs. And now we're back. I just used the little brushes and cleaned it up, and what I can't get off with the brushes, I can get off with the Super Duper. I don't even have the can right here, so anyhow, we are watching the US Open, and it's 100 degrees outside, so I am definitely using the inside cleaning area. So let's go ahead and get the go-go juice on this and get them onto these. Okay, so this is a beveled end that goes on the swinging side, the hinge side. At least I think it does. Is it? Maybe that goes that way. Okay. Yeah, I guess so. Because there's a couple of welds there that, yeah, that's probably how it goes. We'll see. And then the big washer on that. And you kind of have to push down to get the pin set. There we go. Before I put the cotter pin in here, I'm going to test fit this, make sure it works. So I put it on the bike and it does fold properly. So what you do is you put the nut on there, about there, and there's your washer. And I've already installed this bracket. I'm going to torque these to about 18 foot-pounds and just line this up. And thread that in. And then I can tighten what it looks like. Up there. I can tighten this nut up once I get the exhaust all where I want it. Alright, got the bolts on, which align everything up. So then I tightened this, and I just gave it the old German torque spec, which is good and tight, because there are no torque specs for most of this. And I'll put a cotter pin in there, and then we'll move over to the other side. Alright, well there's the exhaust all mounted up. And it's looking pretty good. It's starting to look like a motorcycle. So I guess the next step would be the chain guard. The brake lines are not obtainable. I mean, you might get lucky, find something, some new old OEM, but they're gone and they leak and the rubber's cracked. So I went to a really good local brake line. They make hoses for all sorts of stuff, for tractors and, you know, bobcats, all sorts of different stuff, but they also make brake lines. So I scored a beautiful set of brake lines, and we're going to put those in right now. Along with the hoses, I got new crush washers. So we're going to start by mounting the bottom and testing this mounting clip. So we got the new washers, and it's just loose. And then we're going to mount this. Well, it's a 6-hole playoff at the Travelers. A 6-hole playoff. But what am I doing? I'm bleeding the brakes. So I've got the line on here. I've got the holder. The second holder is right around here. And I had a brake put in the line so that I could index this. If I couldn't turn this line, I may have had a problem because these cables don't flex. I could mount it here and the top could be turned totally sideways. So we put a connection down here. Of course, we're going to tighten all that up when we put the horn on. So it's all in, and really nice brake lever. That's all it is. Just, I'd say no more than a half of an inch before, actually about a half of an inch at best before you feel a little pressure, and then that's all I can get. That's just wonderful. So what we're doing now is we're going to see what we can do with these gauges. The chrome's good, and I know I'll be able to polish them up and have them acceptable. Same with the wires, and I'm sure I'll be able to paint this area here. But I always like to just see how much I can take apart without really getting in too deep on the gauges. This is still working, and that's kind of important. So half the battle's really over. But if I can get in here and clean the glass from the back, oh, that'd be nice. Things like that. So let's start with, and I go to here like I always do and figure out what I can break down, what I can take apart on these. And it doesn't look like I can get inside the bezels. But I just have to start. But I can test every bulb, and that really looks nice when every bulb is bright and clean and looking good. So let's go ahead and start tearing this apart. All right, let's get the bolts off here. And there's little baby lock washers right here. So we got to clean all those up. All right, so I'm able to pull this off now. All right, so there's all the lights like they show in the video. And I'm probably going to take a little time on this and don't want to mess up the rubber on these, so I'm going to try to get one off slowly. Alright, I really don't want to use any penetrating oil to get these out, because if I get any inside this lens, it won't be pretty. You know, penetrating oil running around in there would be ugly. So I got these to come out. I got one out. So I'm going to test each bulb out on its own, and then I'm also going to test the wires. I can see there's an orange and a red, so I'm going to go to the orange and the red and green. So orange and red and green, I'll cross those over, make sure that the socket's working, and I'll make sure the bulb's working on each one of these. All right, so let's test the light. All right, so the bulb's good. Now we'll test the wire. All right, so I know it's the orange and green, red with green stripe, and orange. So what I'm going to do is I've got these little clips, and they're from a plug that I had before. So I'm going to go ahead and plug those in, and then clip on that. So I've got the ground on, and our wire works. So we're going to do that with every one of these other bulbs. All right, we found our first failure. No light. Nothing's happening. So let's see if the bulb's been. All right, let's see. Oh, it's the bulb. All right, we've got a bad bulb. Try to put a new bulb in. Aha! Wiring's good and bulb's good. All right, we got all the lights are all checked out. All the wires work. So now the next thing is we're going to take some 1000 sandpaper, and we're gonna very carefully sand this and paint this black. And in order to do that, I'm gonna have to use water, but I don't want to get any water inside the bezel, so I'm just going to use a sparing amount of water and do some sanding until all those little pits are out. There's like tons of them, because I want it to look flat, smooth. And it doesn't take much, as you can see. I'm pretty much already there. And behind here doesn't really matter because that chrome bezel's there. So, and that's all. Just go around the whole gauge until you got it as smooth as you can. It isn't going to be 100% perfect because some of this corrosion goes deeper than I'm going to want to sand. I mean, I would sand, but I find it sometimes you can live with little imperfections and have a really good job. Otherwise, if you really get in there, you run the risk of water bleeding in, or just a number of things can go wrong. So I'm just want to clean it up a little. All right, I've got them sanded down. Try not to go too deep. I don't want to. I'd rather it be smooth without scratch marks. So I just use 1000 grit, pretty much get it prepped. And now I'm going to rinse or wipe it down with lacquer thinner and just get it clean, and then get it down and paint. So I'm going to do the gloss black on this gauge mount, and then I'm going to use the satin on the gauges. So there's the first coat, and it's been probably 15 minutes, and I'm letting it get real tacky because I just don't want a bunch of orange peel. This is going on a lot more like it's just fogging better. It's kind of a dull, and I know that that's going to work out well in the end coat. So now it's time for a second coat. Well, the paint is dry finally on the bracket, and the gauges, they were dry way before. So I just need to touch up the ring here. Get the tape off and touch up the ring here. I do what I typically do, which is anything that's chrome, like this chrome nut, I use a wire wheel. And I wire wheeled these small lock washers, and I cleaned up the rubber and the spacers. So now I'm going to move on to polishing the chrome. And they cleaned up very nice. Real shiny inside, which you never see. The outside's shiny and nice. I did take the little wire wheel on the Dremel to get some of the rust out in here, but on second thought, this is such a soft chrome, it's almost not a chrome, that I would have done something a little different, but it looks good. I'm just saying that might have been able to get a little shinier result by maybe using just a little harder pressure and the chrome polish. But anyhow, looking good. So now let's put them together. And I cleaned up the wiring. Just cleaned it up with a little Windex and then some go-go juice. Got the rubber pieces on. So put the cap on, make sure the wire comes out. A little cutout here, kind of obvious stuff. That's on. And there you have it. Gauge is all nice and purty. Ready to put back on. Some stuff came in. I know what it is. But what I've got to do here, this is so original and so nice, I'm going to be able to make this look totally acceptable. The paint's still inside all of the areas. So what I've got to basically do is first, I'm going to trace the wires down to the plug, and then I'm going to put in my little tabs, and then I'm going to check each switch. So I'm going to run that test. I'm going to test the horn, the turn signals, the high-low beams, and the headlights. So I'll make sure that's all good before I go ahead and detail it all out and make it look good. And the other thing is, I know what this is. This is the throttle, the grips, and I could not find an original throttle grip, which is okay. I'm going to retain the other, but I'm going to use this, and it'll look just fine. And that is the direction I'm going with that, which will give me an extra one. I'm not going to mate it up because the other one is original. And then sooner or later, either me or the new owner will find the original Suzuki. It'll come up for sale on eBay or somewhere. So we'll do that. And then the other box is the paint, which is exciting. From VMR Paints. Now, VMR, they're, I believe, up in Oregon or Idaho. I think Oregon. And There's Dirk's card. Now I've ordered a lot of paint from Dirk, and I'm going to get a little closer. Maybe that'll give you enough information to get a hold of him. Anyhow, VMR Paints, they do a lot of classic stuff. And so what he sent me was, I couldn't find, I ordered from local paint store the 2 different colors for the tri-coat or the candy that I had matched on the color charts for House of Colors, and it was perfect. It was a perfect match. So what ended up happening is I ended up having to call Dirk. I was going to have him try and put together find the color, and he was having trouble, and he said that he would probably be able to do it. And I said, well, a House of Colors has got a perfect color, but they don't make it anymore. And he goes, well, I can make it. He has the toners, I guess, to make the colors. So that might help somebody in the future who doesn't have the ability, or the people here locally don't want to take the time to try and do something. But VMR Dirk did. So that's exciting. So let's go ahead and start checking out these switches and get the throttle put on, and then we're going to be able to get a little closer to painting. All right, it's on. I don't have it tightened yet. I just want to get everything kind of test fit, but this switch works beautiful. The only thing I don't know is the horn, because it's a ground to the frame. I couldn't get I should have been able to get a test connectivity test done on it, but it wouldn't work. But this works. All these worked. I cleaned them up. Then over here, I don't like this to be adjusted all the way out. It looks like the clutch cable's bad or something wrong with the clutch. So you've got an adjustment down here, and I adjust this to where I've got just a little bit out on this, and then if you need to, you can adjust this later. And then this adjustment, what I've always been told is it's 30%, so 30% loose, 30% in the clutch area where you would be slipping the clutch, and then 30% more, so you know you've disconnected the clutch, you know it's disengaged, and it probably is engaging somewhere in here and out there, and then a little free play. So that's it, it's all on, and it's looking good. So I thought that the wiring from you would think the wiring from the frame coming up it's coming up through here, coming straight up, I would think that would have gone in the bottom. And then the stuff from the top here would come in through the top, but it's totally reversed. And thank God I found this picture that I took, which gave me all I needed to know. So I think this is a really good time to button up this bottom end here where the horn goes, where this mount's a little loose because I got to put the horn in here. So let's get to the horn, and then we'll finish up the headlight. Cleaned the horn. Got a little go juice on it. We got the brand new chrome piece, so now I just got to wire wheel this nut and washer, and then we'll put it together. Okay, look at that. Oh, she's pretty. But does she work? So there again, I've got my little handy dandy test battery, which just, this battery has lasted me at least 5 years. It's an extreme Magna Power AGM. This thing's lasted me probably 5 years, and it was used when I got it, and it just keeps ticking. And I can put a battery in a motorcycle on a in the fall, and come spring have to replace it. I don't know what it is. Probably because it's an AGM battery, or it's just a good one. You get a good one, and that's great. So let's see if this thing is going to fire. Because remember, we had a problem with the horn button on the cluster. So if this works, then if we hit the button and it doesn't work on the bike, we know it's that button. Oh, that's loud. Oh, that's loud. I think they'll be able to hear this in Shingletown. Hey, wake up, Joe. Joe! Then we got our beautiful plated mount. This is the extra bolt and a little spring washer here. Actually, that's just a flat washer, so I would assume that probably goes across here. And then got a little clip here. I think there's another clip. Where did it go? Got another one of these. So let's put this together. All right, these little clips, or I guess it's like a spacer, they go in the rubber like so. So you can isolate the horn from moving. I'm going to have it in here. This rubber piece is going to go in here, just like so. Mount the rubber, install the little clips. Now the only question is, what side do these little rings go on? But something tells me it would go something like this. I still don't take enough pictures, so I should have taken a picture on how this went, but I can see a little line in here, and that's where that washer goes. I can just see the outline of the washer right about there. And then we'll put that on there. Goes there. Tighten her up, and you're ready to rock. And there it is, mounted. And just look at how nice this is starting to come out. I mean, this is starting to really look beautiful. All the brand new anodized or plated pieces, chrome. You know, it's starting to really take shape now. So let's get on to the headlight. Let's get all these plugs hooked up, and then move on to the throttle cable and the starter switch. So there's some color coding. You can see it. There's a yellow stripe on this. Now this is coming from the gauges. That's gauges. Actually, that's coming from the light switch, left hand light switch and high-low beams. But you see a yellow piece of tape, and here's a yellow piece of tape. So I want to just make sure I get these routed at least as nicely as I can, because it's tight in here. Once you try to put that headlight on, all this stuff has to crush together. But that's how you're going to determine these. The other ones will, the more you hook up, the easier it is, because there's only one or two left. And they don't make the mistake of doing the same plug with too often. Usually they use 2 or 3 different style plugs, like this one, and this one's the same, but I can see right here. And the wiring diagram is of no help at all, because it doesn't show any color coding. AC Delco, dielectric grease or lubricant. So I put a little hole in the top and a screwdriver that I have laying around. So let's do this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and stuff some of this down into these prongs, into the holes. Get it good and lubed up in there. Put a little on the side. I know maybe I'm using too much, but I hate it when you have to pull these things apart, and man, they don't want to come apart. And the old wires, I'm sure that they will give out, or this plastic will break or crush if you're not able to slide it out easily. So you can see there's two dog ears here, and that's how it goes. So we'll do the rest here, figure out which one goes where, and get all this tidied up. Next is the throttle housing. So I looked and looked and looked for one of these, and they're just not out there. It's made in Japan. It's got the Suzuki emblem on it. Really cool stuff. Well, it was all bubbled. You can see kind of the weathering and the bubbling here from the heat and the sun, but it was much worse here. And what I did is I took a wire wheel and I just shaved it down, and I shaved the little bubbles off of here, and I got it looking respectable until either me or the new owner coughs up the $100 for a new one. So I've got these taped off, and we're going to paint these. And what I did too here, this was bubbled also, just really bubbled and hard. I mean, almost like 60 grit sandpaper. And what I did was I took 800 sandpaper and I sanded it, and it's really helped. I mean, it looks beautiful. So I think I'm going to get these looking super sharp. So let's get it painted. While that paint's drying, I've got it about 10 minutes in between coats. So this has already been cleaned and detailed, and this is one of the plugs that's in the headlights. So let's go ahead and put this on, and let's then move on to the front brake light switch, which needs a lot of help. And there it is, all mounted up, and I've found a perfect keychain for this bike. Report smoking vehicles. Oh yeah, this is a two-stroke. I wonder if it's gonna smoke. Oh, I better call. I better call. We're gonna all die. I mean, we're gonna die. Smoking vehicle. Oh. So I can do a little on this, but there's not much I can do until I can get these screws, and these are Best Got OEM. I'm going to order them from Partzilla because I need a couple other pieces. I need the tachometer cable and a few other pieces. So this is going to have to go on hold. So we're going to move on. So this is a good place to start. The rear tail light. Let's get it cleaned up. This bike is always amazing me. Look how clean inside that is. I mean, there is nothing I've got to do inside. Even the nuts and bolts and screws. It's just beautiful. So I'm just gonna have to clean this up. Obviously, I'm gonna clean up this rust, get it shiny. But I'm not going to have to do a whole lot on the inside, that's for sure. And the bulb just comes right out. Very nice. So let's test the lights. Okay. That one works. And that works. That must be the low. And that's the high. So we're good to go. So I had to take the lens off because I've got to polish, and I have to press down on this. So I'm going to take these two arms off also. All right, so I did a little polishing. It's just enough to let me know where I need to kind of focus on. And even though the license plate will cover this, when it's sitting on a static display, you're going to want this to be, you know, shiny and presentable. So also this is going to show through. Some of this right in here is going to show through. So I'm going to get in there with some steel wool and a little purple power, and I'm going to try and get as much of the steel wool and get as much of the rust out as I can. And then I'm going to probably take the moto tool and the wire wheel and get in that crevice and get in here. So let's just do all that. So here's it's kind of wore out because I've already gone in here. I've gotten all the rust out of this little crack in there and down in here. And I'll show you how this works. And it got it real clean in there. You're not going to get it all. This is going to stay. There's no getting it out. But it's 110% better. And when it goes on, and especially when a license plate covers it, you're not going to see any of the pitting. But you know, it's not new, but it certainly is acceptable, shiny. So the next I'm going to try and use is this. So we'll get that on. This will allow me to get into this groove in here. Maybe it will. Yeah, that got that pretty good. And then by hand, you know, you can get your chrome polish in there and get the rest of it. So there it is. So there it is, all polished. Should look great. Now I've got to get all these rubber grommets cleaned, clean up all these little pieces, and put it all back together and get it mounted. All right, everything's clean, beautiful. All the rubber's conditioned. The arms, all the screws are clean. The little reflectors are clean. Ready to put it together. And there it is. All I'm missing is one screw right there. But everything else looks great. Try to slow down so it'll focus maybe. There we go. Yeah. Looks beautiful. So, we got it on, throttle, smooth as silk. It always was. So, button this one up, and we're kind of finished with this whole area here. Like I said, it's color coded, so there's a green piece of tape and a green piece of tape and a yellow and green wire and an orange wire, yellow and green. Can't mess that up. A little bit of dielectric grease. And there it is. So, other than the blinkers, I think everything's good here. Just got the headlight, which is one of these two. And I think there's just an open plug for testing or, I'm not exactly sure, optional power, what have you. Brake light switch. Still got the brake light switch to put on, front brake light switch. And that I'm waiting for the small screws that mount the switch up underneath the brake. I ordered these off of eBay, I think. They're going to look great on the front. And these are Repop, I think. Maybe you'll be able to see that. Anyhow, pretty sure it's off eBay. All right, I like the color of these. Factory original. They say made in Japan. Suzuki. These are more yellow. They're not quite as orange. So I'm swapping them over, and they just swap right over. So how cool is that? And I washed these up, and got a little go-go juice on them. Let them sit there and soak it up. And there they are. Looking good. And the original lenses are really cool. You know, when they say Suzuki on them. Suzuki. So we're getting closer and closer to actually testing blinkers and things like that. So it's time to add the electrolyte to the battery. So you can see I practically rebuilt this switch, cleaned up the terminals, and I said I was waiting for those screws to come, and what happened was when I replaced these turn signals, the old turn signals had a whole bunch of little screws, and so I found 2 screws in the bunch of them that worked just perfectly. So now you put the tester on this little area here, this continuity tester. What that does is if you cross over the red and the black, you'll hear a noise. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear that noise with my air conditioner going, but so let's give it the break. Can you hear that? Well, I hear it, which means the brake light switch is done. All right, let's hit the foot brake. Oh my. And let's hit the front hand brake. Yeah, we're looking good. With the blinkers on, working and mounted, I'm still waiting for the tachometer cable. So what that's keeping me from doing is hooking up and covering the oil pump, the air box. All that stuff is kind of being held up by the tach cable. So what I did do is I grabbed the mirrors and I sprayed them with some penetrating, some PV Blaster, and I put a little on this little adjustment area, and I'm going to let them sit overnight and just get good and soaked in, because you can see this looks like it actually moves. I don't know, it might be bent. Most likely it's just bent. So I'm going to have to probably put another nut on the end of this, put it in a vise and bend it back and hope I don't break it. Because I like these isolators. These little vibration isolators, you know, those are stock. It's going to look good with them. So the next step is the seat. And we're going to do what we can with this foam. I'm glad I did not get rid of this old seat cover because it's been a while and I don't remember exactly what side the long piece. Believe it or not, there's a long piece and a short piece of chrome. And because I've got this cover, I can see that this short piece goes here and then pick up the long piece from there. So it's on to the seat. There's not really any particular way to do this. Basically, I had a deep trough in here. I cut a piece of foam, get it in there, try to get it as close as you can, and then I'm going to put a little foam over it to kind of smooth out the rough edges. And I think I'm going to take some duct tape and tape it on for now, just see how good that goes. So I overstuffed a little here and there, but I believe this is going to come out just nice. There's a little humpy here, but as you can see, this seat cover has a triple sewn pad in it, and this is thick, super thick. This is Euro vinyl, whatever that means. So let's just kind of test fit it and see what it looks like. Okay, so I have sourced the clips. Here are the old ones.
Oh.
They're very old and very rusty. But, of course, you can't find them. So I sourced these Disco, I guess it's 1684 MT. And they work really well. Now, I don't know whether I basically took this, and I'll show you. It's a tad bit bigger than the stock one. So what I do is I've got a little hammer, and that's a very little hammer, and you can see how it's peaked up. And if you pop it once or maybe twice, it flattens, and that will make the clip smaller, and it's almost too tight. So just in its original shape, it goes on to these pins that hold this chrome strip. So I put this chrome strip on, and it sure looks nice. It really, really looks good. And you can see, there it is. There's the new retaining clips. So I'm going to put the other on after I polish it up a little bit. And then the seat will be pretty much done, except for just the hardware. So what you do is you locate the holes. Now you could lift this up, pull this clip, lift it up, find it. But if you push real hard, you can feel the spot where, there it is, right there. You can feel a spot. So I actually found it in here. You can see that the little hole there. So I was right. And you just push all the way through both sides of the seat cover. And this has these pick sets that I got here, just cheap little set, has a nice little area there that probably makes this hole nice and big for the pen to go through. All right, I've got all the pins put around in their general location, and I punched holes in the seat cover. So I'm going to slowly put these pins in now. A couple of them are bent pretty good, but I don't want to try to straighten them because that could end up being a nightmare. So this should be fine. So let's start to put these through the holes that I use the awl on. See if they'll feed through. Might have to re-awl them. Oh, there we go. There's the one. Looks like this one goes right here. And trying to get it to go through that second hole. There we go. And it may have to slide a little. We'll figure that out when we get to the back. So I think I'm going to re-awl this hole here. And it's pretty straightforward, but the bend kind of gives you a little trouble there. There we go. Okay. And go through here. Pretty good. Feed itself through there. Sure don't want to break it. Do not want to break this pen. Because it is plastic. So it's nice to have the bend, you know, when you take this off, to not bend it, because I was fighting it because this was too far forward, and now this back is lined up the way it should be, and should be able to get this to pop through there. Yeah, see, I got them in there now. It still needs to come this way a little bit to make this turn. Put this pin in, probably be able to just pop this in. And there it is. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this washer here. So like I said, I'm using them just like they are out of the bag. And grab a socket. And there it is. As we start putting these on, it kind of sucks up. Finds its location. This was something I was stressing about pretty much all the time. I was looking for these clips because they were not being found as a Suzuki part number. And very happy that I found these aftermarket. There's that. One last one. And this one is the one that I pounded flat. And now this is a little more difficult to put on. Kind of press and wiggle. And I don't know which is the best way. I mean, certainly this is holding it tighter. And there it is. All beautiful and chrome. So, I've got the rubber pieces on, and next will be the hinges and latch. And all the latch, hinge hardware, all of that's been replated, so it's just going to look fantastic on there. As you see, not exactly sure how it all goes, but I don't think it goes that well. Maybe it does. Maybe it goes this way, or that goes there. No, it can only go one way. So it looks like that's how she's going right there. And then this is seat latch. And my two pins. Got some bolts. There's a little clip. So let's see how all this works. So it helps to keep your pictures, and that should show me everything I need to know. One thing I did see is the strap. Got to put the strap on first. All right, there it is. I always try and test fit everything that I can. And there it is. Very nice. And the helmet lock works. Beautiful. Okay, it's time to end this segment of the video. So where we are, the last thing we did was this beautiful seat. But we did the turn signals, exhaust, gauges, all the controls, the front brake line, and we really are going to move on now to the fuel tank, the side covers, and we're going to line the tank. Now, this is just a perfect time to end the video. This is what they call in Shingletown patina, and here in the big city we call it rust. But I know that Joe will probably close his eyes in Shingletown when I start sanding all of this beautiful patina off. But we're going to make it look new. So we're going to go on to the next video. But as for this one, this is where we end it. And I'll see you on the next part of the Adventurer.